Where's the accountability? It's nowhere. While these accounts were frozen, influencers were still promoting yada. It's treating a subscriber base like a cash cow, like looking at how much money I can make off my subscribers and leveraging your subscribers to make even more money. Hey y'all, welcome in or welcome back to the channel. Today, we are finally going to be talking about the ethics of sponsorships. And we're really going to be talking about when sponsorships become a problem and also when they become unethical. Sponsorships in and of themselves are not inherently a problem. There are great brands out there or people who have great causes. There's also people who treat sponsorships with care. And it just so happens that there are people who don't. The focus of this video is not about specific creators. Like, we're not going to be mentioning names or showing, well, okay, we are mentioning a couple of names, but the focus isn't on specific creators like my undisclosed sponsorship video. This is more of a discussion of things that we're seeing online. And so we are going to talk about things like unethical behavior, unethical brands, some scams that have happened, as well as alleged scams, and also things like overconsumption. So let's get into it. And I first want to very briefly talk about undisclosed sponsorships. It was in preparation for this video that I was creating a script on undisclosed sponsorships, and there was just so much content there that I decided to create a separate video, which has already come out, and you can watch that if you want to hear more of a discussion and examples of undisclosed sponsorships. This is more of a problem in spaces where there's short form content like Instagram and most especially TikTok. And undisclosed sponsorships are super rampant on TikTok. And the kind of major takeaway of that video is that creators are intentionally making their sponsorships difficult to detect by emulating their non-sponsored content, and also they're making any kind of points to the fact of the video being sponsorship difficult to detect. I focused in that video on FTC guidelines, and some people had a problem with this because they felt like American guidelines shouldn't be applicable to to people who are outside of the US, even if the FTC themselves say that it does apply to people outside of the US. And I do kind of understand that criticism, and I think it would have been more effective if I showcased some other guidelines from other countries. And so a couple of the countries that were mentioned were like UK and Australia, and when we do consider those guidelines, they are quite similar to the US. They all have the same underlying spirit or principles though, like to have truth in advertising, to have sponsorships easy to detect, hard to miss. The UK and Australia guidelines in specific advocate for specific hashtags, in specific hashtag ad or advertisement, and use of paid partnership labels. Even on those two factors alone, I don't think any of the sponsorships I showcased in that original video followed those guidelines. I think maybe if I kind of did that, it would showcase how truly the bar is on the floor when it comes to sponsorships. I think to me this indicates a disinterest in learning about policy, but also people are burying their hashtags. They're making their content difficult to detect as an advertisement. And to me, that crosses into unethical behavior, because this is behavior that influences the creator instead of the subscriber. And one of the things that we're going to see over and over again in this video is this not putting the best interest of your audience first. I think that there's just a lot of complacency and indifference because these guidelines or many of the views of the subscribers don't benefit the creator and its subscribers. People that, like, the backbone of an audience are people who are deprioritized. When an influencer doesn't disclose properly, they're attempting to distance themselves or obfuscate transparency and the fact that they have a financial or material benefit or relationship with the brand. Again, not good for the subscriber. Now, let's talk about when brands are the problem, because I think there's many ways that this kind of happens. I think that there are just brands out there generally that people are so sick and tired of seeing. And brands that I've seen out there and also in my comments are HelloFresh, Temu, I've heard Ana Luisa, and VPNs. Also, so many of you mentioned mobile games like June's Journey. Like, you are so sick and tired of it. And I've heard from many of you who will just unsubscribe from somebody if they see specific brand, or in this instance, like the mobile games. One of the problems with this is when a brand doesn't align with a creator or like their specific niche. And I think a good example of this is HelloFresh, but also the mobile games. Like, I've seen beauty creators who are primarily in their background beauty setup, who don't vlog, and then all of a sudden you're seeing them in their kitchen and you're like, where's the connection here? What? And the same thing with the mobile games. Like, you've never talked about mobile games before, or the games that you're playing, or if you do a favorites video, this is not something that we expect from you. And so it feels like it's disingenuous. It's this kind of behavior that comes across as money hungry. Like, you'll collaborate with anybody. You'll collaborate with the shittiest brands. You'll collaborate with people who don't have anything to do with the kind of content you normally produce. And some people I've heard expressed as unethical because it's so misaligned with the content that this person is generally producing. And I do think that specific audiences will have a greater or lesser tolerance to this kind of thing. Like, I think Funny Fridays is a channel that I watch all the time, and I think her audience is a pretty high tolerance for sponsorships. But then when you think about some beauty creators, they have a pretty low tolerance for sponsorships, even if both of these channels are producing sponsorships at a similar rate. And I think one of the reasons is because Jen's content on Funny Fridays, she isn't selling anything in her regular content. With beauty creators, so many of them who are doing sponsorships are continuously selling people on stuff, whether that is through the hauls or through constant reviewing. It's just so much new stuff, so much promotion of stuff that it kind of seems like you can't get away from it. And so I think that has to do with a individual audience's tolerance. A recent example of an unethical brand and influencers doing something unethical it's come to my attention recently, and that's Yada. And this might be news to you if you're outside of the like financial influencer / crypto space, because it was news to me and it began my descent into crypto scams. I've learned for the first time about some of the biggest crypto scams that like you would have to be under a rock or outside of crypto to have not heard of. And that was me. Learned about FTX recently, learned about SafeMoon, learned about Luna. And I'm just like eating it up because I mean, it's unethical behavior. It's shitty, but I like learning about scams. So I'm going to link a relatively short video on the subject if what I'm saying intrigues you. CoffeeZilla made a video on it. Really great channel. We are going to be simplifying the case a little bit, so if you want more details, go check them out. So Yada was an app that launched in 2019 that gamified savings. And that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about this here. Yada described themselves as a no-lose lottery where you could earn like lottery tickets, lottery tokens by saving money. So you wouldn't be spending any money. This entire company kind of premised themselves on the concept of the lottery, like the traditional lottery, being a way to like scam people out of money. Like they were preying on people, most especially like the working class. Earlier in 2024, Yada turned themselves into a gambling website, which is completely antithetical to their view on lotteries being scams. Like these two things go hand in hand, and they saw themselves as not a gambling website despite offering card games and roulette because they offered sweepstakes, because there was still a lottery component to their website. This on its own is absolutely unethical for a brand to have a moral stance on something, 180 it, and do the exact same thing that they were against 4 or 5 years ago. And Yada was a company that right from the jump used influencer marketing. They were heavily promoted by YouTubers and are still to this day heavily promoted by YouTubers. So before we get into the more scandally aspect of this, I think it is unethical for YouTubers to promote them in 2024 after this flip. It just gets worse. So in May, the accounts of many of Yada's users were frozen and people weren't able to access their funds, which is a problem given that Yada was a platform that people were saving money on. And Yada was regularly referred to by influencers as a bank. Graham Stephan famously said that he bought a bank, which encouraged their users to consider Yada like a bank. Traditional banks in America are FDIC insured, meaning that if a bank goes under, your money is insured. Yada is not a bank themselves. They use a bank called Evolve, and they had access to Evolve through a middleman called Synapse. And these two companies got into a squabble. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because it does. And it's this squabble that kind of led to the accounts being frozen. And it was Evolve that was FDIC insured. So Yada could claim FDIC insurance. This matters because the people aren't getting their money, and they're likely not going to get their money until Synapse and Evolve resolve their problems. That, like, a bank didn't go under. So the people aren't entitled to their money. While these accounts were frozen, influencers were still promoting Yada. Honestly, like finance YouTubers in the crypto space, there's so much unethical bullshit that's happening over there. It is the wild freaking West. YouTubers are doing the absolute most. And the thing is people like Graham Stephan advocated and promoted Yada for years, and people participated in Yada specifically on these YouTuber recommendations and how they talked about the company. Again, this whole FDIC thing really matters here because people aren't getting their money, but were under the impression that they'd be fine. In my opinion, Yada is an interesting case study because of these financial YouTubers or people promoting financial products. And financial products are not the same as a video game or a notebook or a makeup or beauty product, because people are investing their hard-earned money into a thing. Like, you're asking somebody to make a financial choice about their money, about their savings that have real impact on their future. And if one of these companies goes belly up, you've encouraged people to use that platform. You are directly responsible for people investing their money in this platform. And they're the same players or similar players also advocated for FTX. And FTX was an exchange service. And the real thing you need to know is that the people who are responsible for the creation of FTX are in prison. Okay, there was massive fraud there. You just don't know about these companies going under. And if a makeup company goes under, if a notebook company goes under, or a video game company goes over, you don't have hundreds or thousands of dollars invested in that thing. This is just another sign of YouTubers who will not take accountability for those actions, because people like Graham Stephan have said nothing on this whole Yada thing. Where's the accountability? It's nowhere. There are so many risks with financial products, and I don't think that all of these risks are being taken seriously by these YouTubers, or at most they don't care because they're thinking about their wallets right now. FTX in particular paid out colossal amounts of money, like hundreds of thousands of dollars, to influencers to promote their products. They were enticed by the money. We're going to move on from sketchy brands, and we're going to talk about a what I feel like is a problematic practice within sponsorships, makeup sponsorships in particular, and that is having sponsored reviews. I don't think sponsored reviews should exist. You can't be 100% honest and 100% transparent when you have money attached to the review. This is something that, again, is best for the creator and not for the audience. In best case scenarios, the creator likes the product, but they're cushioning their words and they're being extra careful and cognizant about what they say. And would they, are they, it questions the honesty and the integrity. Can you trust this review? Are there downsides that they're not speaking of? Are they trying to play down the downsides of this product? And this is not in your audience's best interest. I also don't like this content because reviews are videos that people will watch when they intend to buy a new product. Of course, not 100% of viewership is that kind of person, but a review is intended to help somebody make a buying choice. Is this product for you or not? Providing you information to help you determine whether or not you should buy it. It seems unethical, in my opinion, to have a sponsorship like that to be paid. It's different from demoing a product. Like if you have a makeup product, you, I think, have to demo it. And that's not the same as having a review on the product. I also think this is adjacent to having a sponsored favorites video. Like it's the exact same thing. Are you saying this thing is your favorite because you've been paid to tell me that it's my favorite? And I think sometimes this happens because a brand requested this kind of video. We'll never know when something appears in a favorites video if it was a brand request or an influencer simply decided to put this thing in a favorites video. Like they just said, I think this is the best place for it. I was personally requested by Lily Silk to create a favorites video with one of their products mentioned in it. And I said no, but this request is being made. And if a brand requests it, that's unethical in my opinion, and it's up to the creator to either say no or not work with the brand. A lot of brands are also aware of the language used for sponsorships and will request creators to not use the word sponsorship and in its place use words like partnership or collaboration. In my opinion, this is a way to obfuscate transparency. Yes, if you put a ad label on your video, like you click it off on YouTube, so it is still clear at least that there is a sponsorship in a video. I want to make it clear. I don't have a problem with somebody saying like, oh, I'm collaborating with HelloFresh on this video. I don't necessarily have a problem with the language itself if it happens naturally. What I do have a problem with is a brand who is attempting to manipulate a situation to say, we don't want our brand associated with sponsorships. A request to not use specific language is like kind of slimy because it is them attempting to be less transparent or be as transparentless as possible while still abiding by laws. That's kind of the intention that I'm getting. It's time to talk about overconsumption. And I think we're going to hang out here for a bit because that's one of the main topics we talk about on this channel. And one of my main gripes with sponsorships, and also one I hear from you a lot, is the frequency of the sponsorships. And so many of you are just so tired of seeing sponsorships, period, because of the kinds of products that are being sold to you. Like there's just so much of like traditional consumer goods, like makeup products or hair care products, physical, tangible products. And I'm talking a lot about like the beauty space because many of you have come to my channel from the beauty space. And so many of you are just tired of being sold to, especially in the context of some of these channels. And I do hear this a lot more from people who are in spaces that have traditional consumer products in them, or consumable products, right? Like the beauty space and the clothing space or planner spaces, they are all niches of consumables. Maybe not fashion, but things that you buy anyways in order to participate in that niche. The audiences there tend to have less of a threshold for sponsorships because regular content is continuously selling us on stuff. And then there is even more content on top of that that is being sold to us. And I get that. I really do. And I personally, like, even if it's a beauty channel, I personally am okay with like up to maybe 2 sponsorships a month. Any more than that, I tend to start getting a bit frustrated. That's kind of my own personal threshold. I would be curious to hear what yours are. And I do also think it does depend on the quantity of videos a channel produces. If a channel produces 20 videos a month, I might have a bit of a higher threshold. But if they produce 8 videos a month, my threshold is lower. It's kind of more like the ratio of things. And having a ton of sponsorships rubs people the wrong way because, again, this comes across as money-hungry behavior. And selling people stuff is not in the best interest of an audience. And I do get where sponsorships come from, or this desire to share products that somebody really likes with their audience. I have been there myself. And some of these products being sold can be useful. And even if we want to look at things through a minimalist lens, which I know this audience isn't all minimalist, but I'm saying even if we took that lens, there is usually somebody who might be looking for a new hair product or a new handbag or a new bra, and you're presenting your audience with something that they might actually use or like could be useful in their lives. And I think a lot of sponsorships start off this way, but the bigger a creator gets and the more potential for revenue in a sponsorship, I think the more frequently they happen and the more enticing that they become. I think this gets into money-hungry territory when sponsorships are incessant, or when somebody is promoting multiple products within the same niche. There's a creator, I'm just going to leave her nameless. I'm not trying to start shit. She is somebody who promoted a skincare product early 2024, said it transformed her skin, and then 3 or 4 months later, she promoted a different skincare product and said similar things, that it transformed her skin and her skin looks as good as it does because of these products. This is a conflict of interest, in my opinion. And I do think that if you are like promoting a product like that, you should not be able to promote another product in the skincare category like 3 months later. I don't think you should be allowed to do that because both of these skincare things, like, this person is telling us that both of these skincare things have transformed her skin because it's a way for her to sell the product. It just feels unethical because you're encouraging your subscribers to buy this brand, and now this brand's the best. Which brand is the best? Which is it? It's treating a subscriber base like a cash cow, like looking at how much money I can make off my subscribers and leveraging your subscribers to make even more money. I do now want to talk about how much money people can make from YouTube AdSense and also kind of compare that to advertising revenue, because a lot of this is just plain and simple greed. And there is rhetoric out there that says YouTube doesn't pay shit. And some people are truly out there talking about or acting like they'll be broke if they only used YouTube AdSense revenue. I'm going to share some information with you. Now, every video has a couple of numbers associated with them, but the one we're going to focus on today is the RPM, revenue per milli, which is the average amount of revenue you would make per 1,000 views. Your RPM does vary per video on YouTube. Mine tends to hover around $15. I do, like this past month, I've seen 14 and I've also seen 25. Like it fluctuates. The average on YouTube is somewhere around $10. So we are going to use that number to do some calculations. So let's say somebody's RPM is $10 and a creator makes 6 videos a month, averaging 1,000 views per video. This would be approximately $1,000 per video and $6,000 per month, or $72,000 a year. If the RPM was $15, this would be $9,000 for their 6 videos, or $108,000 a year. Let's now say those 6 videos made 500,000 views a month. With an RPM of $10, that's $5,000 per video, $30,000 a month, or $360,000 a year. This is not the poorhouse. TikTok and Instagram are also known for not having the same kind of numbers or monetization as YouTube. You tend to need much higher views in order to get similar amounts of money. And I hear TikTokers complain about this all the time. I do understand the complaint that TikTok takes much more of the ad revenue. Both TikTok and YouTube, they kind of work on this idea of advertisers pay to advertise on the platform. On YouTube, they give money back to the creator and they keep some for themselves. Same thing is happening on TikTok. They're just keeping way more and giving out way less. On TikTok, the average creator is paid 2 to 4 cents per 1,000 views. Is this low? Yes. However, expectations on TikTok are different than YouTube. There are expectations of posting 15 or 20 times a month and also having a minute-long video. It's very different than a 40-minute video or even a 20-minute video. You also have to have about 10,000 followers on TikTok in order to get monetized, which is a higher threshold than YouTube, which is 1,000.
Editing Shauna here. I was working on this segment on TikTok math, and I absolutely miscalculated. I got my partner to double check my math, and he corrected some embarrassments. So we are doing a little voiceover here. So TikTok themselves say that they pay about 2 to 4 cents per 1,000 views. And this is an estimate because it's not a hard number. And there's also been reports of other kinds of numbers like 20 cents or 30 cents for every 1,000 views. So if we go with this 2 cents per 1,000 views, on 250,000 views, that's about $5. On 500,000, it's about $10. You know, a million, that's about $20. However, when you go into forums, you hear people say, you're gonna hear some clicking because I'm in a forum right now, of people saying, or people asking, you know, how much did you make? People said like, oh, I've made $30 for 1 million, or I've made $0 for 20 million. And in addition, the creator fund doesn't pay equally to everybody across the globe. So that's something to pay in mind, or to keep in mind. And when I was mentioning about like AdSense revenue being low, it is equally as low. It's much lower than I initially thought on TikTok. So here's what I think this means: that people who are exclusively TikTok creators are relying on sponsorships way more than I ever realized, or you potentially might have realized. So if a person wants to be an online content creator on TikTok, it's in their best interest, their wallet, to take sponsorships and do affiliate marketing, because otherwise it is unsustainable to have TikTok as your full-time job without these things, without brand deals, without creating your own products or selling your own products. At that point, then yeah, you can make bank, you could sell whatever you want to sell. And it's these low payouts that are pushing people towards other kinds of practices that are seen as super normal and very much okay, because this is just what's happening. People kind of see it as par for the course. And even though I've mentioned that there are some disgruntled viewers who are sick of ads, there are also a number of people who just see it as part of being online, as something that you just got to deal with. And so I think the TikTok ecosystem is producing a somewhat different relationship to sponsorships than on a platform like YouTube. The point I think should still be made, though, that nobody is forcing anybody to be online content creators or to be TikTokers. People are pursuing this job because they see it as lucrative or perhaps an easier path to wealth than other types of jobs. And so I think this represents at least a small portion of those people who are TikTokers.
However, both of these incomes are significantly less than what you can charge for advertisements, which is why it's happening. If you're somebody who regularly gets 250,000 views per video, you can charge way more for sponsorship. Let's say they charge $2,000 for a sponsorship. It's $2,000 for a segment in a video. Video's what? A minute, say a minute and 30 seconds. It's for a few hours of work. You're making $2,000. Most people can't make $2,000 in a couple of hours worth of work. It's just not possible. And bigger creators, the bigger you get, the more money you can charge. I could charge close to that amount now on YouTube if I wanted to. Like, it's just, I think part of this view from creators that this AdSense revenue isn't great is because of how great the advertising revenue is. And they also see people making millions of dollars a year off of brand deals. And quite often you are making more on a single brand deal than you were to be making for the corresponding AdSense in that video. And in my opinion, this is treating an audience as a dollar sign, leveraging them to make even more money, all while failing to consider whether that actual content is beneficial for an audience. This kind of money is unfathomable to so many people, and it doesn't sit right with subscribers when it's being made off of them. Consumers are facing so many buy now messages, whether that's through a specific content, like take the sponsorships out of it, the try on hauls, the reviews, the constant buying of products, refilling fridges, refilling skincare drawers, going to Target, shop with me's, showcasing just new products everywhere. And there's so much buy now messages. You're then getting that woven in to content through sponsorships. And then also not disclosing those sponsorships sometimes. So much of the content online is geared towards getting a subscriber to buy more stuff. And creators have just found an increasing way to get their audience to buy more things, whether that's through monetizing things strictly through AdSense, through sponsorships, or through affiliate revenue. And so it feels like creators are attempting to extract every cent from their subscribers. And when a creator has content that is primarily advocating for people to continuously buy more things, even if the person doesn't, they're in content, like they're in a sphere that is just constantly paying attention to new releases and promoting new releases, keeping your eye on newer, nicer things or on the newest thing. They continuously fan the flames of consumer culture. What upsets me on a personal level is viewing an audience like a cash cow and extracting all the money that's possible from an audience. And how this looks is not the same across the board. But I think this perspective is a bit gross, and it is money hungry behavior. It's putting a creator's wallet and making the maximum amount of revenue over a subscriber's best interest. So that's the video for me today. So I would be very curious to hear your thoughts on unethical sponsorships, why you don't like sponsorships, or also some that you do like. So thanks so much for watching and hanging out with me today. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I hope to see you again around here soon.